Xi Jinping was stunned by the announcement from NG. BYD and Geely were also panicked by the EU investigation. Meituan and Tencent were paralyzed by the strong blow on the stock market. China Merchants Bank immediately collapsed due to the consequences. The US continued to increase sanctions. The EU also followed suit. In a stunning development, NG, one of China's flagship electric vehicle manufacturers, sent shockwaves through the global market with its latest announcement. The company revealed a dramatic 48% drop in sales in the European Union for the month of August 2023. This revelation not only rattled investors but also reached the highest levels of China's leadership, including President Xi Jinping, who had heavily backed the EV sector as a pillar of China's economic future. For Xi, the news was a clear blow to his vision of technological dominance, as NG had been one of the symbols of China's rise in the global electric vehicle industry. This decline in NG's sales came amidst heightened scrutiny from the European Union, which had initiated an investigation into China's subsidies for its electric vehicle sector. The investigation aimed to determine whether Chinese EV manufacturers, including NG, BYD, and Geely, had received unfair financial support from the Chinese government, which gave them a competitive edge over European companies. The potential imposition of tariffs by the EU, a direct result of this probe, looms large over the future of Chinese car exports to Europe, which amounted to approximately $85 billion in the first 8 months of 2023. For Xi Jinping, who has invested heavily in promoting the Made in China 2025 initiative, this downturn in NG's performance could not have come at a worse time. The electric vehicle sector was intended to be a cornerstone of China's economic growth, providing a high-tech, green alternative to traditional industries. However, the loss of confidence in NG's ability to maintain its stronghold in Europe represents not just a corporate failure but a significant crack in China's broader industrial strategy. The global repercussions of this slump were immediate. With NG's sales plummeting, many questioned the sustainability of China's aggressive push into foreign markets, especially in the face of rising protectionism and economic nationalism in Europe. Xi Jinping, who had championed NG as a symbol of China's success, is now facing a harsh reality. China's over-reliance on subsidies and government support could backfire, particularly in regions where these practices are scrutinized or punished with trade sanctions. The damage to China's prestige was palpable. The European market had been a key target for Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers, and a sharp drop in sales not only hinders the country's economic ambitions but also shakes global investor confidence in the reliability of China's manufacturing sector. For NG, the prospect of new tariffs and trade barriers may further dampen its prospects in Europe, forcing the company to reconsider its strategies in other markets. Xi's vision of leading the world in high-tech industries now faces a formidable challenge. With Europe pushing back against Chinese dominance in electric vehicles and other tech sectors, Beijing is under pressure to diversify its markets and reduce reliance on government intervention to boost industries. The long-term impact of NG's sales collapse could ripple through China's broader ambitions to be a global leader in technology and green innovation, raising questions about whether Xi Jinping's economic strategies will be able to withstand the mounting challenges from international trade disputes. As China's electric vehicle (EV) giants BYD and Geely find themselves under the microscope of a European Union investigation, panic has gripped both companies. The EU's probe, initiated to determine whether Chinese EV manufacturers have been benefiting from unfair government subsidies, has sent shockwaves through the industry. For years, China's electric vehicle sector, with BYD and Geely at the forefront, had enjoyed robust growth, bolstered by government support aimed at making China the global leader in clean energy transportation. However, the EU's scrutiny threatens to disrupt that momentum in one of their most lucrative markets, Europe. The EU's investigation comes at a particularly vulnerable time for these companies. In the first 8 months of 2023, Chinese EV exports to the EU reached a staggering $85 billion, signaling the rapid expansion of Chinese automakers into Western markets. BYD, long celebrated as one of China's premier EV manufacturers, has been aggressively pursuing dominance in Europe, a region seen as crucial to its international growth strategy. Geely, too, has heavily invested in expanding its European footprint, positioning itself as a direct competitor to established European brands like Volkswagen and Renault. However, the ongoing investigation now puts both companies' strategies at risk. The potential consequences of this probe are dire. Should the EU conclude that Chinese EV makers have indeed benefited from unfair subsidies, it could result in the imposition of steep tariffs, effectively neutralizing their competitive edge. BYD and Geely, already facing narrowing profit margins due to rising production costs and increasing competition, could see their European sales collapse. For companies that have relied on rapid international expansion to fuel their growth, such a setback would not only damage their financial performance but also slow down China's broader ambitions of dominating the global EV market. Back in Beijing, the Chinese leadership is watching the situation unfold with growing unease. The success of BYD and Geely abroad has been integral to President Xi Jinping's larger industrial strategy, particularly as part of the Made in China 2025 initiative. This initiative seeks to reduce China's reliance on foreign technology and position the country as a leader in cutting-edge industries like electric vehicles. Yet, the investigation by the EU could unravel years of efforts to establish a foothold in the European market. For China, the investigation represents more than just a commercial dispute, it's a geopolitical challenge. The Chinese government, which has provided billions in subsidies to support the EV sector, now faces accusations from Europe that it has been distorting market competition. This could lead to broader economic consequences, with other Western markets possibly following the EU's lead in enacting similar measures. For BYD and Geely, the sense of panic is palpable. Their ability to sustain growth internationally is now in question, and both companies face a future clouded by uncertainty. The looming threat of tariffs and other trade barriers has forced both companies to reconsider their strategies. Geely and BYD are well aware that any significant disruption to their European operations could ripple across other regions, threatening their global aspirations. With Europe being one of the most important markets for EVs, any loss of ground there would not only affect their balance sheets but could also have a chilling effect on China's broader industrial ambitions. The once seemingly untouchable tech giants, Meituan and Tencent, have been dealt a devastating blow on the Chinese stock market, sending shockwaves across the financial landscape. As the market collapsed in October 2024, Meituan and Tencent saw their shares plummet, leaving investors in dismay and the broader technology sector in paralysis. The dramatic fall in their stock prices was not an isolated incident but rather part of a broader financial crisis that has shaken the core of China's economy. For Meituan and Tencent, both long heralded as the stars of China's technological rise, this financial disaster has left them reeling, with their future prospects now clouded by uncertainty. Meituan, known for its dominance in food delivery and online services, saw its stock nosedive as investors rushed to sell amidst fears of a prolonged market downturn. Tencent, the tech behemoth with its sprawling empire that spans social media, gaming, and fintech, also faced severe losses. Both companies had long been perceived as insulated from broader market turbulence due to their sheer scale and dominance in the digital economy. Yet, the current crisis has shown that even these giants are not immune to the forces of market volatility, especially when driven by a lack of investor confidence in China's economic trajectory. The collapse in Meituan and Tencent stock prices can be traced to multiple factors. Firstly, government intervention in China's tech sector had already spooked investors, with regulatory crackdowns on monopolistic practices and data privacy concerns having weighed heavily on these companies in recent years. Additionally, the broader economic environment in China has deteriorated, with slowing growth and mounting debt contributing to a general sense of instability. Investors, who had once flocked to tech stocks as a safe bet, are now pulling out en masse, exacerbating the downward spiral. For China, the collapse of these tech titans is not just a financial issue, it is a major setback to the country's aspirations of becoming a global leader in technology. President Xi Jinping's administration had long championed companies like Meituan and Tencent as symbols of China's innovative prowess, part of a broader strategy to compete with Silicon Valley and other global tech hubs. Now, with their market valuations in freefall, the very pillars of China's digital economy are crumbling, raising concerns about the long-term viability of the country's tech-driven growth model. The paralysis gripping Meituan and Tencent has reverberated beyond the stock market. Their struggles have raised alarms across the industry, with other tech firms bracing for similar fallout as investor confidence erodes. Many smaller tech firms, which once thrived in the shadows of these giants, are now facing liquidity crises and operational challenges as they too bear the brunt of the market collapse. The broader technology sector, once seen as the engine of China's future economic growth, is now grappling with the possibility of a protracted downturn. In a devastating turn of events, China Merchants Bank, one of China's largest and most respected financial institutions, found itself teetering on the brink of collapse as the stock market meltdown sent shockwaves through the country's financial system. The bank, often seen as a bellwether for China's broader financial health, was hit hard by the massive sell-offs that began in early October 2024. As investors rushed to pull their money out of the markets, China Merchants Bank quickly faced a liquidity crisis that crippled its operations and rattled the confidence of both domestic and international stakeholders. The sudden collapse of China Merchants Bank was not an isolated incident but a direct consequence of the wider financial upheaval that has gripped the country. In recent weeks, the stock market had seen unprecedented drops, with key indexes such as the Shanghai Composite plunging over 6%, and even greater losses across Shenzhen and the Startup Board. These declines were exacerbated by a loss of faith in the government's ability to shore up the economy through effective monetary policy. As the market spiraled downward, the bank's exposure to high-risk sectors, particularly in real estate, compounded its vulnerabilities. Investors, already on edge due to the broader economic slowdown and concerns about rising debt, began withdrawing their funds en masse, leaving China Merchants Bank struggling to maintain sufficient liquidity. The bank had been heavily involved in financing large real estate projects, a sector that had seen tremendous growth over the past decade but was now faltering under the weight of overinvestment and declining property values. With major real estate firms like Vanke and Boli seeing their stock prices collapse, the ripple effect hit China Merchants Bank's balance sheets hard, as the default risk on loans skyrocketed. The shock was immediate and severe. Within days, the bank's stock value plummeted, triggering panic across the financial sector. For a bank of its size and reputation, the speed of the collapse was unprecedented, underscoring just how fragile the financial system had become in the face of cascading market failures. As depositors rushed to withdraw their funds, liquidity dried up, forcing the bank into a downward spiral that it could not escape. For the Chinese government, the collapse of China Merchants Bank represents a critical failure in managing the economic fallout of a market in freefall. With the real estate sector already in a state of deep crisis, and now a major bank crumbling, the prospect of a broader financial crisis looms large. The failure of such a prominent institution sends a clear message to the global financial community that China's banking sector is not immune to systemic risks, and it raises serious questions about the stability of the country's financial infrastructure. The broader implications of China Merchants Bank's collapse are profound. Not only has it shaken investor confidence domestically, but it has also sent tremors through international markets. The bank's downfall highlights the fragility of China's financial system in the face of external and internal pressures, and it is a stark reminder that even the most established institutions are vulnerable when market confidence evaporates. As China's economy continues to falter under the weight of domestic challenges, the United States has ramped up its punitive actions, deepening the strain with new sanctions aimed squarely at Beijing's most prized sectors. These measures, which expand restrictions on key technological exports and target firms critical to China's ambitions in artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and telecommunications, have sent ripples through an already struggling Chinese economy. With major corporations like Tencent and Meituan already reeling from a market collapse, the added burden of U.S. sanctions has left China's tech industry on the defensive, scrambling to navigate an increasingly hostile global environment. The rationale from Washington is clear: these sanctions are a continuation of the U.S.'s broader strategy to curb China's growing technological influence, particularly in areas seen as critical to national security. The U.S. government has framed the sanctions as essential to preventing China from leveraging its technological advancements for military purposes, but the economic ramifications are undeniable. Chinese firms are now facing severe restrictions on access to advanced semiconductor technologies, critical components for their operations, leaving them vulnerable and unable to keep pace with global competitors. The sanctions are effectively pushing China's most innovative industries into a corner, stifling their ability to innovate and expand. But the economic squeeze on China doesn't stop there. The European Union, closely aligned with Washington in recent years, has followed suit, launching its own set of trade measures aimed at leveling the playing field in key industries. Following its investigation into China's subsidies for electric vehicle manufacturers like BYD and Geely, the EU has signaled a willingness to impose tariffs on Chinese products, which could severely undercut China's export strength in Europe, one of its most important markets. The EU's growing alignment with the US in implementing economic restrictions against China signals a formidable coalition of Western powers determined to challenge China's trade practices. For President Xi Jinping, these developments come at a time of immense pressure. The compounded effects of US sanctions and EU trade barriers are creating an environment where China's industrial and technological advancements are being systematically constrained. This is not just an economic setback, but a strategic one, threatening Xi's long-term vision of positioning China as a global leader in high-tech industries. Beijing's reliance on subsidies and government-backed initiatives to fuel industries like electric vehicles and technology is now under direct assault from multiple fronts, forcing Chinese firms to rethink their global strategies. The broader economic consequences for China are profound. With the US and EU aligning in their efforts to restrict China's technological reach, the nation's ability to maintain its competitive edge on the global stage is now in question. Chinese firms, particularly those in the tech and green energy sectors, are bracing for a future where access to foreign markets and key technologies may be significantly curtailed. In the face of these escalating tensions, China's industrial growth could slow dramatically, adding to the internal economic woes already plaguing the nation, from a declining property market to soaring corporate debt.